Good morning, everybody. Today is the 10th day of the month of Adar, just a few days before Purim. It is the first day of the month of March. Spring may be in the air one day. In the meantime, though, it's not. And we want to say hello to everybody. We have some faces that returned. And so I hope you put on your makeup, Fred. And, there you go, Fred. And let's say hello to everybody. And we go around the table, and all the people, all the beautiful people who are here this morning. Hi, Mom. Okay. We are now on page 30 and 31 in a book called The Art of Giving. And we finished off with the question last week, and the question was, and we discussed all of this in the introduction. The question was, it seems very clear that every single time a person gives whatever it is to tzedakah, even if it's a nickel, as long as it's worth something, as long as you buy something with it. Let's just say a nickel. I don't know if you can buy anything with a nickel these days. That's a nickel for a pickle, or a pickle for a nickel. There was a commercial in your days, Mel, that said, for hats, and it said, if you want to get a hat, get a hat.
Oh.
And others it said, if you want to get a hat, get a hat. Anyway, but
Something for pickle.
yeah, that's what.
And nickel for the thing.
That's why. That's what jogged my memory here. So let's just say a dime. Anytime you give even a minimal amount to tzedakah, it's a mitzvah, because you're giving something away from yourself. Just imagine you're in the store and he wants $3.10, and you have that dime in your pocket, and you don't want to break another dollar bill because you're going on a plane and you know the change is going to be all over the place, and you have to go to security and take them out. And so you just want to find the 10 cents, and you take that to tzedakah. Oh, darling, I don't have it. So even a 10 cents thing can be something personal, something that you want to keep and you don't keep it because you're giving it to tzedakah, giving away something of your own. It's rare to give away a mitzvah, to give something away of your own. It's usually you pray and you keep Shabbos. These are things that you do for yourself. But then there's something you give away, never to receive back. It's gone. So every single thing that we give, every penny that we give, every time we give it, is another mitzvah. He proved it from several places. So then why would the Talmud teach and encourage that every single, he says, every single coin is combined to a great amount. What's the great amount all about? Each coin is a great amount, isn't it? That was the question that we left with, that we finished with last week. So now we are on page 31, and I'm sorry, 31. It's the same. And we're just going to read the first paragraph again, just to get back into it, just as I mentioned before. So which is better? And another thing is, so if you give $1,000 or if you give 10 cents, it should be the same kind of mitzvah. What is the difference we're going to make all the accumulations at the end? This is in apparent contradiction to the above-mentioned statement of our sages, who were compelled to conclude from the verse in Isaiah that each coin adds up, as mentioned, implying the superiority of a single large contribution, where he proved that a single large contribution doesn't seem to be the focus. The focus seems to be the act and the art of giving, which is the title of this book. Giving is what God wants you to do. How much? That shouldn't be a factor. Okay. There is also another matter. This is the next question that the Rebbe is asking here. This is the third Rebbe of Kabbalah. There's also another matter requiring clarification. The Talmud, as well as the halachic codifiers, state that the mitzvah of tzedakah is properly fulfilled only if one gives a certain minimum, no less than a tenth of one's earnings. Look at 23, footnote 23 on the bottom. See, Shulchan Aruch means, the literal meaning of Shulchan Aruch means the prepared table. Those two words, Shulchan Aruch, the prepared table, is the code for the Jewish daily and general law. That means there's volumes, 10 volumes, that are found in this Shulchan Aruch prepared table, in which you have the laws of daily laws, morning, afternoon, evening, what blessings you make of foods, and so on. Shabbos, and then all the festivals. That's the first section. The second section of this volume is laws that we do for holiness. So there's a lot of this slaughtering and koshering, and what if things get mixed up, and the laws of tzedakah, and the laws of the laws of purity and impurity and menstrual cycle and all that stuff. Then there is the third section is the laws of marriage and ketubah and divorce and so on. And the fourth section is civil law. And these are the laws as opposed to other codifiers. This was written by Rabbi Yosef Karo, who lived in Tzfat about 500 years ago, same time as the Ari. He's buried right near the Ari as well, in Tzfat. And he gathered together from all the predecessors and all the Talmud and all everything and put it into wrote one volume of law, one magnum opus, a massive lifetime achievement of all the laws that were pertain to a day-to-day basis, not the laws that were connected to the temple and that thing. Only that we have, that we experience in the day-to-day. And from that came a lot of other books of law that all stem after that. Because he writes the law that would pertain to Sephardic custom. He was a Sephardi. Rabbi Moshe Isserles, who lived at the same time in Krakow, wrote a glosses, notes, on the actual text of Rabbi Karo and put together Ashkenazi differences. So you have Sephardi Ashkenazi in the same book. But it can get confusing sometimes. We follow one, does he think it's different? Does he think it's bad? Does he think it's wrong? Do we still do this? So in the later years, others came along, and that's the Shulchan Aruch. So the Shulchan Aruch is the basis for the laws, and that's what we follow today, Shulchan Aruch, the book of law. Maimonides, for example, has his volumes, but his volumes have all 613 commandments. He discusses them all as though the temple is being built tomorrow. And we have to go in there and make the red heifer and whatever. So he's about what does the Torah want from us? What are the laws of the Torah? Shulchan Aruch is what do you have to do today, tomorrow? And since the Maimonides was 400-500 years ago, Rabbi Karo came along. So things had been added, some customs. What is a custom? What is a law? And so on. So Shulchan Aruch is where we turn to. Shulchan Aruch, see Shulchan Aruch Yoredeya. Yoredeya is the second section. The section that we do is called holy matters. The preferred amount to give to charity is a fifth of one's earning. That's the preferred amount. The average or minimum amount is a tenth. And see there for further references and commentators to the Shulchan Aruch over there. In other words, the Torah says, it says towards the end of the book, the end of the fifth book, towards the end of the Torah, in other words, about halfway through the fifth book, the Torah says, give a tenth of your earnings. That's the required minimum amount. You make $100,000, so $10,000 goes to charity. Now that sounds like a lot of money, $10,000. I spoke about this about 9 months ago. I'm sure you remember. It was on the Shabbos. It was the last Torah portion of the book of Vayikra, the third book of the Torah. And over there it says that when you give when you have animals are born on your farm, on your property, your land, you're supposed to give a tenth of all the born animals to the priest, to the Kohen. And you're supposed to take it with you to Jerusalem and give it to them. And so the Torah says, how do you know what's a tenth? He says you're supposed to take all of your animals, all the newborn calves, put them into a section, and then have an exit that's only very narrow, only one animal can leave at a time. And you count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the 10th one you put a little mark on it, like a red, you're supposed to use a red paint or something, you put it on the back of the animal so you know, identify, this is number 10, I called this one as number 10, and that one's heading to Jerusalem, that's for the benefit of the priests. So the question is asked about this mitzvah, that's strange, bizarre, you're telling me how to count 10? Is that what you need to do? I mean, why can't I just walk outside and 1, 2, 3, 10 and put red up? Do I have to go through this whole process? Torah's telling me how to give the tzedakah? Are you going to tell me now how to go to the bank and then write a check or go and take out cash and then give it to the... I mean, it's very unusual to give you directions. And one of the answers is because 10 animals, that's... You had 100 calves born. You know that each animal is worth a lot. It's a big amount. When that animal grows another year, that will be 1,000 pounds of meat. That will give you milk. You can work in the fields. You can grind wheat. There's a lot of things you do with a big, strong animal. I'm going to give this away. That's 100. That's 10 animals out of 100. 10 is a lot of animals, or 100 animals out of 1,000. Comes along the Torah and says, count for yourself 9. Then you'll see how much you have left over. When you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's all mine. All right, one more. I can deal with that. So with the animal, which is more use than just money, it's a lot of use that you can have personal use. The Torah says, in order for you not to feel the how much you're giving away, think how much you are keeping, how much is being reserved by you. Then you'll realize that you have, you know what, that's a lot. Now, for people who are givers in nature, so it's not a sad day to give them. But there are people who are created within nature that they don't like to give. They don't like to throw anything away. They don't even like to give away a paper bag. They want to keep it for whatever, a rainy day, or a plastic bag for a rainy day. There are people who are like that. That's nature. That's why the Torah is talking to them. The Torah says, go count yourself how much you're keeping. Then you'll realize that what you're giving is just a tenth. One more thing. When the Torah says give a tenth, the Torah says aser te aser. Give a tenth and give a tenth. Like it repeats it. And our sages say that the word aser is like eser, which means 10 in Hebrew. It also has the same letters as the word ashir, which means wealth, rich. Says the Talmud, if you want to get asher, you want to get rich, give aser. Don't forget to give away. You never lose from giving. So, the minimum amount that the Torah asks of every person, for whatever your earnings are, to give 10%. That's a minimum. 10% of the earnings.
Is that before the IRS would be? No, I'm serious.
Hang up the IRS
You're
on
talking
the
about
gallows of
You're talking about 40% of your earnings are taken before you even have a choice.
And that's not earnings. Earnings is what you bring home, not what you give
net.
away. It's not your net.
Your net.
Right, not your gross.
That makes a difference.
Oh, yeah?
It's what you earn. What the government takes away is not what you want.
It's what they are.
What they took, not
What they took.
and they have a right to take. King Solomon took a lot of taxes to build the temple and to run the country. And his son, though, decided to continue taking taxes, and that's when he lost, the son of Solomon. That's when the kingdom was divided into two. All right. So, our sages teach that in order for one to fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah is to give away a minimum. The preferred amount is 20%, is a fifth, but the minimum amount is 10%. That's what we just said over here. No less than a tenth of one's earnings. According to this opinion, if one made numerous charitable contributions totaling less than a tenth of his earnings, even though on each occasion he thereby elicited supernal life to repeatedly cause a supreme unification. I'll explain that in a second. he nevertheless did not fulfill the mitzvah properly. So, if I made $500,000, amen, in a day.
You won the lottery.
That's pushing it.
And I had to give away $50,000 on that day. And I gave 3,000 to Rabbi this, and 4,000 to this school, and 6,000 to Israel, and 10,000 to APAC, and to this, or whatever it is. And I came to $45,000 I gave away in a day. I have not fulfilled my obligation. Now, a lot of people are very happy around the world because I've given a lot of money. That's as far as they're concerned, they're happy. But you have not fulfilled your obligation, despite the fact that you've taken $45,000 and you have created the unification. What he said over here is a quote from what he mentioned previously from his grandfather, the first Rebbe of Chabad, that every single time a person gives anything to charity, you cause a unification of, as we discussed at length last week, your unification of the level of God that is remote from this world, that doesn't really belong in this world, to the level of the Shekhinah that is designed for this world. So therefore that increases the blessings, because you have the unlimited, infinite level of God that's not designed for this world, now adding more blessing and more godliness and more holiness and more, therefore more blessing into this world. So every single time a person gives something, you've given 45,000 times of that. And yet, you have not fulfilled your obligation. You haven't done the mitzvah.
Why not?
Why not? Because we need some more.
And why don't you fulfill your obligation?
Because it's not 10%.
So what is your punishment?
There's no punishment. It doesn't say any punishment. The Torah just says give.
You have to feel guilty.
The Torah says give and you'll be blessed. It's not a punishment, but the blessings are not the same. It does say in law that a person shouldn't be irresponsible and start throwing things away and then having to beg for tzedakah. Hey, can I have some tzedakah? What do you mean? You just made, yeah, but I gave it away to charity. Well, that's very small. That's called being too extreme on the side of giving. Although it does say though that when a person's health is in jeopardy, one would splurge whatever it is to become healthy. Well, it's the same thing with spiritual need. When a person is in need to give for spiritual purposes, to give tzedakah, that can save from a lot of other things that a person will do. For example, fasting and praying. And I can't do this, Rabbi. What do I need to do? Give tzedakah. That tzedakah will save the person. So when a person needs saving, then a person should dip in a little bit more, dig in, make it hurt. So it's like fasting hurts physically. This would hurt like emotionally. Nonetheless, though, a person should never go too far, and then they would have to themselves receive charity. That's silly. Instead of giving someone else charity, give it to yourself. You can't let it all go. But at the same time, 10% should be for anyone who earns something. So every single time a person gave $45,000 away for tzedakah, you think that person is a tzaddik. The person is righteous. The person is great. Who gives $45,000 away just like that? In a day. I guess people will make $500,000 a day. Yeah.
I have a question. If you were like very miserly with your money for a long time, and then you said, "Oh my gosh," that you realize you've got cancer or something changes your life.
My life.
And then you start giving.
I
Does
start
that
giving.
make up for the not giving, or?
You can always make up. In Judaism, there's always a way. I was going to say a way out. But, I was sitting on the border of Israel and Lebanon. I mean, literally on the, there's a kibbutz that was there before Lebanon became a country, before Israel became a country. So it's been there for a long time. And there's a guy called Aryeh who moved there in the early 60s from Cleveland. a brash, brutal farmer redneck Jew. and they bring groups. We're going with our trip. We will meet Ari. He is one heck of a great character. He explains Israel like the way you would expect a guy like that to explain. I don't care what these guys do, and if they don't want to kill me, I won't kill them. But boy, you come up that mountain now, I'm going to kill you. And I've done it before, and I'll do it again. If you kill me first, well then God wants it. And this went on and on to these 25, 6-year-olds. He was using words that you don't hear even on the radio, that kind of thing. This is and anyway, what do you want? Baseball? The Indians don't do anything anyway. That kind of thing. He was just on and on. And at one point they said to him, you're working out in the fields. You can see the fields it's all the way up on top of the mountain. There's snow piled up. And so right on the mountain on top of the Lebanese border, you see Hezbollah right there. I mean, just, 100 feet away. And you see it with your eyes, and they're there. So they asked him, what happens to this year's sabbatical year? It's supposed to lay your field fallow. So he said to me, what do you mean, we're Jews, we find a way out of everything. That's the exact words he said. I mean,
What does that mean?
that was the only time I said, wait a minute. He said, the rabbis have found ways, or they find, anyway, so I didn't want to say way out. But there's always a way to get back in. The Talmud says that if a person does such and such, even if he pushes, they won't allow him in. In other words, even if you really want to if you want to repent, they won't allow him in. So the Rebbe takes that word of Talmud and says, look how the Talmud says it. They won't allow him in. What if you just open the door yourself without having permission? Just push yourself in. That the Talmud even gives their way, even in that situation. If you push hard enough, you'll get it.
They let me in, I go through the door.
Through the broken door.
I go through the door.
Anyway, so it's very clear that a person who gives a lot of tzedakah has caused a lot of fusion between the infinite level of God and the finite level of God, and a lot of blessings to this world. It's quite clear. And so, but he hasn't fulfilled his obligation of giving the 10th. Conversely, if he gave a 10th or a 5th of his earnings, but did so only once as a single large contribution, thereby bringing about a supreme unification only once, he would be considered as having fulfilled the mitzvah properly. So you've done the mitzvah, and you've caused that one unification, one blessing to this world, or to yourselves, and you've fulfilled the mitzvah, you're happy. And here's a guy who's fulfilled the mitzvah thousands of times, and yet he hasn't fulfilled the obligation of giving a 10th. How does that work exactly? So you're going to look at the spiritual side, and then the practical side, it seems to contradict one another. This seems puzzling. It would seem that multiple small contributions, repeatedly eliciting supernal life, is superior to a single act of charity, eliciting this only once. If so, why has one who gives with the former method of making a single large contribution, in other words, the tithe, gives a 10th of his earnings, gives 50,000 in one shot, why has he fulfilled his obligation, while one with the latter method of making many small donations has not, because you've only given 45, I haven't given you 50. And I will repeat what I've said before, a number of times, I said it last week as well, that a lot of it depends on the receiver as well. Sometimes the receiver is having a Kabbalah Coffee receiver, the city's having this charity campaign, and that's when the money is needed the most. And so a person who wants to give away $10,000, let's say, to that campaign, should give 9, and then the other 1,000 give over the year if you want. I mean, if you want to do that. But certainly the recipient needs to receive the money at a certain time. So it's not only about the causing this godly thing. There can be other ways of giving smaller amounts. Give a quarter every day out of the $100 remaining. Give $99 and then the other 100 you give a quarter every day, a nickel every day, a dime every day, whatever. Okay. To understand and reconcile these differing opinions, we must first introduce and explain two mystical interpretations. And here we're going to get a little Kabbalistic. The first is the mystical interpretation of the verse, and he came with some of his holy myriads. This is a verse in the last portion of the Torah, the portion where Moses blesses the Zot HaBrachas, the portion, the only portion that doesn't have a Shabbos. We don't read the last portion of the Torah on a Shabbos. We read it on Simchas Torah. Simchas Torah will never fall on a Shabbos. It can fall on a Sunday, it can fall on a Friday like it did this year, but it won't fall on a Shabbos. And so it's never read on a Shabbos, unless you're in Israel, but Israel is different, for different reasons. Anyway, so the verse over there says that he came, God, this is a reference to God, with some of his holy myriads, that's all, and lots of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, that God came to Sinai, from Sinai. Yeah, God came from Sinai and shined from Seir. He appeared from Mount Paran and came with myriads of angels. Now, he's not going to say this over here, but this is the verse that teaches about, which the Talmud teaches about an unbelievable thing. When God came to give the Torah to the Jewish people, we just read about it a couple of weeks ago in the Torah portion, he first went to all the nations, and he asked them if they would receive the Torah. And each nation said, what does it say? What is written in this document? He didn't go to the people. He went to the spiritual representatives of the nation. What does it say? And to each one, he said, the one commandment that he knew would be extremely difficult or impossible for them to follow. So to one nation, he said, don't steal. Don't steal, we can't do that. Don't tell any lies. Tell any lies, we can't do that. Don't commit adultery. No, adultery? No way. And to each one, he gave the more difficult one. When he came to the Jewish people, they said, how many? He said, 2 tablets. He said, well, 2? We'll take them both. 3? We'll take them. No. When he came to the Jewish people, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do, and we will understand. They didn't even ask what it says. They said, if God is offering this, we will do it. That's our thing. And we will do it, and we will learn to understand what he wants from us as well. We'll spend the rest of our time trying to figure this out. And we still try. There were times where the Jewish people, it says in the 4th book of the Torah, that the people were crying to their families. Each family was crying. That sounds very strange. And so the Talmud explains that they were crying about the family. That there were the restrictions are so heavy about who you can and who you can't marry and all this, that they found that very, very difficult. But they still said, we're going to do this. And the Jewish people have spent their time not doing it. We have been very good at not following the Torah. And the Torah says a million times, if you don't follow, you're going to have this, and this is going to happen. You're going to end up getting kicked out of your land, and I'm going to hide my face, and there's going to be all kinds of trouble. So this verse that says that God came from Sinai and went through Seir, which is a reference to Esau, the people of Esau, and went to Mount Paran with other nations. This is the one that teaches that God came to the other nations. Why did he go to the other nations? Because eventually, when the Mashiach does come, when the world will see that the Jewish people are the chosen people, they were chosen at Sinai. It says that in the Torah several times, chosen to be the Jewish people were chosen to be the representatives of human beings who are able to have a relationship with God. That's the chosen. Chosen for what in the words of Fiddler on the Roof? Chosen for what? Why were we chosen? Chosen simply that when we follow God, the rest of the world, light unto the nations, the rest of the world would realize, recognize that human beings can have a relationship with God. That physical beings can have a relationship with God. Which means that every time we try to be like the rest of the people, it's just the opposite of who we are supposed to be. When Jews try to fit in, whatever it is, to the rest of the nations, we're doing a disservice to them as well. I was once sitting on a plane, and a very strong Christian couple who lives in Florida, I think, and this is years ago, at least 10 years ago, and they said to me, we have a question to ask. The Bible says such and such. Why do all the Jewish people that we know, quite a few of them live in Florida, why do they say that that's not really relevant? Or I said, you're going to the wrong people. There's no such thing as it's not relevant. Christians say things are not relevant, not Jews. So when they know what the Bible says. And when they don't see that we are doing what the Bible says, they wonder, what is behind here? What do these Jews really want from us? Why are they trying so hard to be friendly with us? What is the message here? There is a suspicion. Why? Because they can't, what do you mean? Doesn't it say don't do any work on the Sabbath? They don't understand this stuff. Doesn't say you're supposed to rest. To them, they don't have to do it. Or they don't think they have to, whatever, but they look at us. Because they know that the Bible says that you have been chosen. See that. It says to be a light unto the nation in Isaiah twice. And when they see that a person is, I'm not talking about the haters and the bores, I'm talking about the people who want to know. When they see that a Jewish person is committed, they feel an unbelievable amount of respect for them once they understand what you're doing. This is why God came to the nations. He came to the nations because one day they will say, why didn't you choose them? Why not us? And God, the Talmud says this, that when Mashiach will come, they will say, hey, wait a minute, what are you doing with these people? We didn't get a chance here. And God will say, I gave you. I came to every single one of you. I came to all the nations. 3,500 years later, you're coming and you're complaining now? You know how much bacon you've eaten in these 3,500 years? You know how much bacon they haven't eaten? Well, anyway, so the nations will push that. And it says God will give them a very simple and easy mitzvah. It's called sukkah. Isn't that an easy mitzvah, man? Once it's over. And he'll make it very hot or very rainy or something. You got to kick down the sukkah and walk into the house. You keep your mitzvah. Don't mix them. It's raining and we sit out there. That's one of the reasons why we insist to sit out there. Sukkah can't be bad. It's great. All right. We're thinking about Purim right now. Purim is simply great. All right. So this verse teaches on the homiletical level, you look into the words, that God was wandering around from at Sinai. I can't wait to say, hold on a second, guys, let me go find out what the other nations want. And none of them were interested in accepting the entire book the way it is. And then God came to the people, the Jewish people, and they said, yes, we're taking it. No questions asked. Now, Kabbalistically, mystically, let's see what these verses say to us. One of the permutations of the Hebrew alphabet, permutations, for those who want to, an English word, is the combination, the putting together, of the Hebrew alphabet is the Ayic Bechar sequence of single, double, and triple digit letters. We touched on this 2 books ago. And there are different ways. Because the Hebrew alphabet was made up by God, composed by God. The Hebrew language and the Hebrew alphabet was put together by God. Writing the Torah needed an alphabet. Although the alphabet has changed over the years. The ancient Hebrew, a little different to what we have today. We call this the Assyrian Hebrew. They sort of made it bigger and nicer and better, so you have the letters in the Sefer Torah different than what they would have earlier times. Not that much different, but the Dalet is more, so And that's how we do it today, and that's the acceptable way. If you did it the other way, if you did it the ancient way, it would be unacceptable. It would be not a kosher Sefer Torah. It was established by the prophets, the alphabet that we have today. So it's established through God. Anyway, so there's a sequence of Aleph, which is the first letter, and then Yud, which is the 10th letter. Because 1 through 9 is the single digits. And then you have the 10 through 100 is the double. Because each one of them is 10 is double 1. And 50 is double 5. Is double 25, but it's 5 times 10. Anyway, get to 90, and then the next sequence would be Kuf, the last 4 letters, Kuf, Reish, Shin, and Taf. Kuf is 100, Reish is 200, Shin is 300, and Taf is 400 to complete the alphabet. So we only go up to number 400. When you hear the word gematria, the word gematria means the equivalent, the amount of how much these words make. So, for example, the 18 is what? Everybody knows this one. It's Chai. Why is 18 Chai? Because the Ches is 8. It's the 8th letter. And the Yud, to make it I, is the number 10. So 8 and 10 equals 18. And that's called gematria. The gematria of Chai is 18. So when you see number 18, you say, wow, it's Chai. Chai means life. Now, the gematria of Tov, which means, Tov means good, is 17. That you didn't know. That's too complicated. That has 3 letters. It has a Tes, which is 9, and a Vav, which is 6, and a Vet, which is 2. So 9 and 6 plus 2 equals 17. And this is how gematria works. So if I wanted, if my name, my second name is Yitzchak. The first name is Yosef, my second name is Yitzchak. So Yitzchak, you have a Yud, which is 10, and a Tzadik, which is 90, and a Chet, which is 8, and a Kuf, which is 100. Now you got all 3, so it's 208. So Yud is 10. So you have 4 letters, combination, and that's now I'm up to 208. And that's how you get 5,750, where we are today, 75, which is this acronym. So you have to start putting together a bunch of letters if you want more than 400. If you want 600, for example, you got to have a Tuf and a Reish, and and to get up there. So this is how gematria works. And gematria is a whole world unto itself. It is an unbelievable, vast world. And a deep, mystical, vast world. And the Arizal, the Kabbalist, the Arizal, he was very, very big into this. He shows you how obscure places in the Torah that you can't just read them and you're just like, why is it saying all of this? He shows you, he brings all these things to life through gematria. So look at this, look at that, you see how they're connected to one another? Did you know, for example, that the word Moshe has the same letters as the word Hashem? Now you know why Moshe was chosen. It was given by Pharaoh's daughter. He had other names. He had a name that his parents gave him. That's not always known. This world is beautiful. It's amazing. Then you see how everything is really connected, and the whole Torah is really one. That's just one side of one level of the what we call the second level of the Torah, the illusion level of the Torah. How things allude to one another. Anyway. So in the gematrias themselves, there is all kinds of different sequences and ways how to get it out. You need to be the greatest Kabbalists. Those are the ones that dealt with this stuff. You can't just come up and make things up like this because there's no end to them. You can throw any word you want out there and say, oh, it equals this, so therefore I should, I can eat whatever. I don't have to follow Shabbos because I found it. There's no end to that.
Is this a course coming up?
If you give them more than a tenth of it, no.
You bring damage down.
The course, we can do a course on that, but it's that world.
For the mathematics.
That world, you don't even need math. You can just write on the board, and it blows you away. I study every week. that stuff I don't necessarily focus on that portion, but there are books that you have written by great holy saints who show you how, why every single nuance in the Torah. Why did Abraham have to pay 400 shekels to buy the cave in which he was buried? Why 400? Why did he give him 400? Wow, whoa! The name of the guy who he was dealing with, Ephraim, equals 400. And then there are 4 this, and 10, by the time you finish, you say, it seems like a simple story, but the Torah isn't a simple book. It has everything in it. All right. So we're gonna here's a course right here. Now to look at footnote 26. Each letter of the Hebrew alphabet has a corresponding numerical value. Aleph is numerically equivalent to 1, Bet is 2, Gimel is 3, and so on. In the Ayik Bechar permutation, the Hebrew alphabet is arranged in sets of 3. Each set contains 3 letters, numerically equivalent to a single, double, and triple digit value. The first set is Ayik, containing the letters Aleph, Yud, and Kuf. Their respective numerical equivalents being 1, 10, and 100. The second set is Bechar, containing the letters Bet, Kaf, and Resh. Their respective numerical equivalent being 2, 20, and 200. The rest of the alphabet will continue in the same manner. See the chart on page 77, which is not on your copies. I don't believe me.
When does it say 100 is 20?
I'm sorry?
When does it say 100 is 20?
Kuf, no, Kaf is 20. Kuf, that's a common confusion letter. The letter Kaf and Chaf is 20. Kuf is 100. Kuf is when you take the Chaf and you remove its bottom and you put a walking stick over it. Now, according to this system, by the way, the 5 end letters, because Chaf has a final Chaf, and Mem has a final Mem, and Nun has a final, and Pei has a final, and Tzadik. Each one of them is equal more and more. So the Chaf is equal 500, and the Nun 600, the final Nun. Final Mem is 600, and the final Nun is 700, and
What?
the final Pei is 800, and the final Tzadik is 900.
What? What?
So I'm saying that's what you know, but when you start opening the Kabbalah, you see that there's a different count. Why do some letters have ends to them? For that, we can have a whole course just on that, on those 5 letters that end. The Mansapach letters, Mem, Nun, Tzadik, Pei, Chaf. But why do? But they can also, because they are end letters, that means they are bigger. That means that they are part of the bigger equivalent numbers, if you want. You can also use them as regulars, but if you, according to one system, they count as that. By the way, look at this Bet, Chaf, and Resh, and you'll see that spells out the word Bechor. Bechor means firstborn. A firstborn child is called a Bechor. It's the same as Bikurim. Fruits, the first fruits are called Bikurim. Bechor means first, early, the first. And the Torah says that the Bechor, the firstborn son, gets a double portion as inheritance. The rest of the family gets one, and the rest of but the firstborn gets double, because he gets double trouble. As a firstborn child of 15, and I know her, I'll tell you that, yeah, I suffered for that. That cost me. And so you get a double portion. And if you look at every letter that has, in that sequence of this word, it's double than the previous letter. So a Bet is 2, is double of 1. A Chaf is 20, is double of the previous letter, which is 10, Yud. And the Resh is 200, double of the Kuf before it, which is 100. So each letter is double than the previous letter. There is no other sequence in any of the alphabet, I checked into this, that is double than the previous one. Like 40 is not double of 30, which comes before it. Or 6 is not double of 5, which precedes it, and so on. Only the second letters are double than the previous one. And that's the word that makes up first one, who receives a double portion. That's a gematria. And by the way, there's a vav in there as well. And the vav is the only letter in the alphabet that is spelled with two vavs. When you want to write out the letter vav, if you want to write the aleph, it's aleph. That's how you write aleph. If you want to write vav, it's vav, vav, double. So that entire word is a double connotation. Now, you see how this gematria can work? And there's no end to this. That's why I'm sharing these little things, because this is where you see how everything is consistent of the whole Torah. By the way, that's only level 2. There's level 3 and 4 that goes even deeper than that, which is the Kabbalah and all that. The Kabbalah uses a lot of gematria because the Kabbalah is trying to show you how everything is godly. Everything. It's only God that makes this. All right, so we have this permutation of triples. Singles, doubles, and triples go together in one sequence. These numerical equivalents correspond to different levels of divine energy. The higher numbers within each set of 3 correspond to higher spiritual levels. We did this again in the first book that we studied. Thus, the level alluded to by the Yud is 10 times greater, Yud is number 10 times greater than that of the Aleph, which is number 1. And Kuf is 10 times greater than the Yud, which Kuf is 100, Yud is 10, so it's 10 times greater, and so forth. And we will, now why is he bringing this up? You'll have to come back next week.